Hi there. Today we're going to be going over the inspection contingency addendum in detail.
So stay tuned.
Hi there. Thanks for checking us out. It is Beth
And Shirley
with Shirley's Real Estate Group, John L. Scott, and this is the BS Real Estate Show.
Beth and Shirley, that is. And we're here with more real estate news that matters to you.
Today we figured we'd go over the Form 35, the inspection contingency addendum, in detail to provide some insight for both future buyers and sellers about what exactly this form means, what it does, and why you shouldn't be afraid of it.
As we've mentioned before, if you're a buyer, it's highly advised that you opt to do a home inspection once you're under contract. The first part of this form covers that. Both parties, buyer and seller, must agree to a certain number of days when negotiating the contract, defaulting at 10, but typically in a tight market you're going to see no more than 5, to have a licensed home inspector meet you and your agent at the home to perform the inspection. These typically range from 2 to 3 hours, sometimes longer, depending upon the inspector and the size and condition of the home. It's the buyer's responsibility to order the home inspection, choose whom they'd like to perform it, and pay for it. Typically, the buyer's agent will aid in getting that arranged.
Within the agreed upon inspection contingency timeframe, the buyer will need to do one of 4 things. Give notice to the seller that they either approve the inspection and waive the contingency, disapprove the inspection and terminate the agreement, provide notice of additional inspections. With this, the buyer will need to provide proof from the inspection report showing that the additional inspection was recommended by the inspector, or 4, propose repairs or modifications to the currently mutually accepted contract.
In the event that the home inspector did recommend additional inspections or repairs, the buyer will have an agreed upon number of days to have the additional inspection performed prior to submitting their inspection response. This defaults at 5, but it can be more or less. If the buyer does not provide their inspection response within the agreed upon time frame, the contingency will waive automatically and the seller will not be obligated to complete any repairs or renegotiate.
Once the seller receives the inspection response, they'll have 3 days to respond back to the buyer with one of 4 things. They either approve the repairs or modification requests, they counter back with some of the repairs or modifications, 3, they reject all of the repairs or modifications, or 4, they offer an alternative. In the event the seller does agree to the initial request, the contingency is satisfied and there is no need for the buyer's response.
In the event that the seller does counter the buyer's initial inspection response, the buyer shall have 3 days to agree to the seller's response, propose an alternative, other remedies, or disapprove the response and terminate.
Please keep in mind, if you counter the seller's counter, the seller is no longer obligated to complete the original items that they proposed in their counter because you rejected that. And if another offer comes in during that time frame that is higher in price, it's likely that the seller will not go back agreeing to the original items.
So before you counter the seller's response, make sure that's what you want to do. The inspection response isn't meant to go back and forth repeatedly, and the timeframes do not repeat.
The kicker here is that if the seller chooses not to respond when their 3-day time frame ends, it will automatically begin the buyer's 3-day time frame to satisfy the inspection or terminate. Not all brokers know that. In the event the buyer doesn't do one of these 2 things, the contingency automatically satisfies itself and the buyer is not entitled to anything. You'd be shocked at how many brokers out there do not know how these time frames work, how to calculate when they start, if they involve only business days or include weekends, and that can cost you any request that you've asked for and the option to terminate the contract without losing your earnest money. Another thing to note is that in the event, let's say you had requested 10 days to perform your initial inspection and sent over your inspection response on day 5, that does not mean you still have 5 extra days. All timeframes set forth in the contract are triggered when the notice is received.
So we know that's a lot to take in and it's probably confusing, but if you have a great broker, you're in good hands. Make sure you stay tuned for our upcoming videos. We'll be discussing another form that's wildly misunderstood and not followed, which allowed us to recover 2 earnest monies for our sellers as damages within the last 3 months.
If you have any questions that we didn't cover, reply below, call, text, or email us. If there's a topic that you'd like to hear more about or an idea you have for a future video, please let us know. If you like the content we're putting out, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and
turn on the bell icon.
Bell icon notification so you get our future videos.
Well, that's a wrap. What a bunch of BS. See you next Tuesday.